take a sip first?
Hydrate.
Yep. What are you drinking?
Just try not to laugh through this. Tea.
I'm drinking Throat Coat. Have you ever heard that before?
Throat coat.
Throat Coat.
Throat coat. No,
Yeah.
I haven't. Oh, it keeps your throat warm. That's
Yeah.
What type is it?
I think it's Twining tea, maybe.
But it's like black tea.
No, it's looks like piss.
Yum.
It's supposed to help coat your throat. Like a lot of singers will drink this before they sing so that you sound better.
I need that. Like when I go to events, I hate it because I never speak as much as I do as like going to a coaching clinic or something.
Right.
And by the end of the day, I'm like, how do people talk this much? Like my throat is in agony. So maybe that would help.
You should try it. Verity, welcome back to the show. It's always great to have you here.
Thank you again for having me. This is what, the third time?
It is. It is. We're making a habit of this.
I like it.
It's always great to have you. So big news coming out of the PWBA world. Some real changes happening that affect the players and membership. Can you share a little bit about that and your thoughts on it?
Definitely. So I feel like social media kind of blew up. With this whole change, we are getting ready to go into the 10th season of the relaunch of the PWBA Tour, and they have taken away membership. So for the past 9 years, you could either be a member of the PWBA and pay your fee in order to be a member, or you would just be considered as a non-member. Now, obviously, there were some rules that came along with that in the sense of you could only cash in 2 events as a non-member before you would have to actually get your membership card. And that membership has since been taken away. So there is a lot of talk, I would say, on the internet, as there always is, of the pros and cons. Some people see it as a bad thing. Some people see it as a good thing. And in the end, it's just different. It's a change that I wouldn't say we were expecting. It's not something that was decided on by the players. It was solely a decision made by USBC.
What do you believe brought on this change?
It's hard to say. I think it's probably a bunch of different things. We have had some issues in the past with different requests and different rules for being a PWBA member. So a lot of people are probably not aware, but we had to submit a lot of requests in order to bowl tournaments that were going to be live streamed or to be on podcasts or to sign with different sponsors. There were a lot of rules involved. And a few years ago, when the women had the opportunity to be a part of the PBA League, it caused a lot of issues within USBC and PWBA. And I think that was probably the starting point for this. I'm on the PWBA Players Committee, and obviously we have had a lot of discussions over the last couple of years about the rules and about fines and how so many people are being fined for things that maybe they shouldn't be, or maybe they should be, right? It's just that discussion. And I think that this change actually takes away a lot of those issues that have happened over the past couple of years.
And USBC technically, I guess, owns the PWBA, is that correct? Or they're the ones who run the PWBA, where the PBA is its own separate thing that's unaffiliated with any other bowling association. Is that correct?
Correct. So the PWBA is owned by USBC and the BPAA, which is the Bowling Proprietors Association of America. Those are the 2 organizations that essentially fund the PWBA. And they are actually putting more money into the PWBA this year. So although we have had this membership taken away, they are saying it's going to be the biggest year in the sense of the amount of money that has been put forward by both organizations. Because it's the 10th season, they are trying to do something special. We have a really big event in July that's different. It's new. And I think a lot of people have kind of missed that side of things when they see, oh, now there's no membership. But we're actually forgetting to look at the positives in the fact of we have a tour, we've made it to the 10th year, we have events to bowl.
Do you think this will bring about more involvement, like more women will want to now bowl on tour stops because if I'm correct, the pricing structure has also changed of entry fee. Is that correct?
Yes. So in the past, if you're a PWBA member, you paid for your membership. you then got $100 discount to events. So a regular stop would cost you $300 and a major was $500. Now that is changing to where everybody is paying $350. So for a previous non-member, they were actually paying $400. So now it's $50 cheaper for them, and it is $50 more expensive for who was previously a member, but we're now not paying a membership fee. So that difference in entry fee, I'm hoping, is going to bring more players. It is so hard to know, right? I don't know whether people don't bowl because they're a member or a non-member. It's really hard to say. What I would say is, because there was a cash rule in place to where you could only bowl 2 events and cash before you had to get your membership card, for the people who did that, I could see them now bowling more events, because now they can bowl the whole tour and they don't have to get a membership. I would be curious to hear some thoughts from some non-members who have bowled previous years, because a lot of times I don't think the membership really affected them all that much. It's more about work. It's more about life. It could be about the money. Our prize funds, PWBA, USBC, have stated that the prize funds will change for this year. We have not seen what those prize funds will look like. However, they say that it is a very small change, like possibly 1%. So our prize funds, I think, over the last couple of years have been very good, very fair. I think that they have increased, and I'm hopeful that there is not that big of a change there to where it will still attract ladies to come out and bowl.
What was the membership fee prior to being taken away?
$300.
Okay, so that's a significant 6 events. Then if you bowl 6 events, you break even on that $50
Exactly.
You're paying more on.
So it was really catered. The membership was catered to those who wanted to bowl full time, because again, if you're bowling 6 events, you get that money back. We had a few other added benefits, one of them being that if you were a member, you were able to use transport, meaning we have a player services truck that is where you drill the bowling balls. So just like the men's tour, there is a truck that goes to every event. You can drill on there, but you can also transport your bowling balls. In the past, that was only available to members. So that was kind of a benefit. Whereas now there is no membership. So some of that structuring does have to change. Whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, I am not 100% sure. The PWBA kind of are going to put a rule in place in the sense of who gets priority over the truck. Same with entry to tournaments. There will be a procedure in place. We're kind of going to have to wait and see how that plays out.
How do you personally feel about the changes, and how does it affect you with some of your sponsorships or that sort of thing?
I feel good about it, honestly. When I heard about the changes, I couldn't really think of anything negative right away, which surprised me, because a lot of other people thought, oh, well, now I'm not a professional bowler. But I never looked at it that way. To me, it gives me a lot more freedom through social media and other events. And USBC, PWBA, they never denied any of the events that I had submitted a request for. It was just simply a loophole, or not even a loophole, just something that we had to do, right? It was just a requirement. You've signed a contract. You are tied to this organization. Now I simply don't have that. So it allows me to have a little bit more freedom from that sense. Now we can't get penalized for necessarily what we say on social media, whereas in the past we can. However, I would never want to say anything bad on social media anyway. So that wasn't something that really ever affected me. I would say that I'm also probably fortunate in the sense of I have won a PWBA title. So I am going to have some form of perks in the sense of I can definitely use the player services truck, and I will have entry priority over perhaps some people who haven't won a title. So from that aspect, I can see where for me, it doesn't make as big of a change as it might do for somebody else who used to be a member but wasn't a title holder.
You just mentioned priority entry. Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so there's always been a standard system for entering a PWBA event. And actually, the rule for priority entry as it stands now was put in place prior to this membership change. And that was to try and stop certain things from happening. I will give you an example. Last year on the women's tour, Hope Gramley had to bowl a PTQ. She was the reigning rookie of the year. So it technically didn't make sense that she had to bowl that PTQ,
Right.
but because of what rules were in place and there not being this correct priority for entry fees, she had to bowl the PTQ. So because of that, the rules were changed to where if you have a title, if you're in the Hall of Fame and you were in the top 50 from the previous season in points, you're going to get priority entry. And then from there, it will be, whoever signed up the quickest, essentially. There will be some limited fields depending on the size of the bowling center. So you would then have the possibility of bowling a PTQ, pre-tournament qualifier. However, we are going to some bigger centers this year. So there's also a chance that there is no PTQ. But now the hope is that priority entry, or the way that the rule has changed, you don't have someone who was a rookie of the year or a player of the year. They should get priority to bowl on the women's tour this year. And a lot of people will talk about kind of PTQs and how much they suck and it's not great. And I can 100% get on board with that. All I will say is that in a way, I hope we have PTQs because it means that we've got so many women bowling, right? In the end, we want an abundance of players. We want these fields to be full. So if we're getting to a point where we have PTQs, I actually think it's a good problem.
If you're like me, you're always working to improve your game. That's why I use Lane Talk. Lane Talk lets me focus on competing while it collects all my stats. After each event, I simply go in the app and collect my scores. It's that easy. Lane Talk gives me in-depth information showing me areas I need to work on. Download now in the App Store or Google Play. Join me and take your game to the next level with Lane Talk. So now that the membership has been taken away, does that bother you at all that you're, technically not called a professional because you don't have this card anymore to show like, hey, I'm a professional?
I can't say that me paying the $300 to get the card ever made me think I was a professional, right? For me right now, I bowl full time for a living. That's what I do. And for me, that's what guarantees or classes me as a professional. It's way less about having the card. I think about some guys I know that have a PBA card that I would not consider them a professional, but they have a professional membership to an organization. So not having a card doesn't lessen you as a competitor. It doesn't take away what you've done or what you're going to do. If you win a PWBA title, you've won a PWBA title. If you're in the PWBA Hall of Fame, you're in the PWBA Hall of Fame. So for me, I'm still going to consider myself as a professional.
And honestly, the bar wasn't super high to get a membership in the PWBA or PBA.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, you had to average 190 in order to get a membership card. So to me, that also wasn't necessarily this shining light of, oh, now you're a professional just because you've done that. A few people have asked me actually about visas and internationally how that could it cause any changes? Could it make it more difficult to become a professional or to get the visa because now you don't have this membership? But I will actually say, as I've been through that process so much before, it was so hard to actually prove to the government that it was hard to make or hard to become a professional in the PWBA because it was listed so clearly how easy, I don't want to say it's not, but it was always hard to say, oh yeah, it's really difficult to be a part of the PWBA because that technically wasn't really true. So I actually think it just frees that section up from a visa standpoint. And it's not going to have to be talked about being a member in this organization. You're simply just going to show your accolades and your achievements and everything that you've done. That kind of makes me think actually also about the international side of things. Now, coming from a different country, all you have to do is have a USBC membership and be Safe Sport certified in order to bowl in these huge events, which to me is a huge benefit too. It takes away kind of one extra thing that these international players might have to consider doing. So I think that's also a benefit, and I'm hoping that more international players will come over because of that too.
So will this now too affect like open championships or events that restricted professional bowlers from bowling in them? Would you be eligible now to participate?
I don't know yet. PWBA are going to have to get together to possibly change some rules. I do know that for this year, nothing is changing. So the rules are staying the same. However, for future years, events like the Women's Championships and Open Championships, there were different rules in place. If you were a professional bowler, because you had this professional card, you couldn't bowl with another professional bowler. So how those rules are going to change, we don't know yet. But all we do know is we're still going to be able to bowl those events.
So, final question. What are your favorite snacks to take on tour? Because I bowled a tournament recently and I realized that my snack game was not up to par and I got really hungry and hangry, if you will. And so, what are your favorite snacks to take on tour?
I love eating when I bowl, which is probably very different to a lot of people. I will always have some form of protein bar with me. Normally, almonds and carrots tend to be my go-to snacks.
Verity, it was great having you on as always. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the new rule changes and look forward to seeing kind of how this changes the tour and hopefully results in more women getting involved and bigger tournaments.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And if anyone's watching this that is a female that is looking to bowl something this summer, please go ahead and try a PWBA event, whether it be a national stop or a regional stop. I think that they're a fantastic way to learn and improve, but compete against the best women in the world.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.